Okay. Okay. We are here for, I'm going to call podcast number 3. And I'm here with my incredible partner, without any question, one of the greatest life coaches that I've ever met. Also, my good friend and someone who I go to in really difficult times to seek out really deep meaning in things. And that's my co-host, Jocelyn Sokol. And Jocelyn's up top. Jocelyn, will you just make sure we know? Are you thumbs up there? Right. And today's guest, who is, I can't wait for this. Like this is why you do these things, because you get to talk to people you love and like and learn, and then you disguise it as a podcast. But just here, so ERIN TASHIAN,
yes,
who is a teacher at Benjamin Franklin Middle School, of which I taught with ERIN for, I'm going to say, 20 years. I don't know what the answer is, something like 20. And I was able to watch ERIN, as so many of us are doing right now, in the midst of this amazingly changing environment. I've watched her reinvent herself from a teacher who was struggling to connect with kids and have kids really feel like they were truly learning. And that pain brought her to this new journey of becoming a mindfulness guru and expert, who is basically bringing her curriculum around the state and around the tri-state area, and is changing classrooms all over the United States. She is a true leader and a game breaker. And along with that, an amazing mom, an incredible wife, and most of all, to me, a great friend. So ERIN, we thank you so much for coming on. We know your time is precious, but we're so interested in finding out how you're dealing with, and then what you're doing with, this whole Corona experience. And I'll turn it over to the brains of the outfit, Jocelyn.
I just have to say that was one heck of an introduction. I mean, I feel so awesome right now, but thank you for that. A lot of really nice thoughts and words, Jimmy. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm super happy to be, I was thinking to myself, this is such a nice break because I've spent all day talking to children, which I normally do. But, usually during the day, you have moments where you see colleagues, and I haven't really seen any adults today. So this is really sweet. This is a great opportunity to reconnect in a different way. So thank you.
Great. Joss?
Yeah, well, Jim and I have been thinking of different ways to connect with our clients who we have, who, were working on things in their life before quarantine. And, it's amazing how the sort of challenges and also the benefits that have come out of this for many. So as far as your experience so far, what are ways that are, what are the challenges that teachers are facing right now, some of them?
Oh man, I mean, like everybody, there's so many layers to the challenges, I think. But I think first and foremost, I think one of the biggest struggles is trying to work several hats at one time. I know I'm fortunate my kids are a little bit older and they don't need me as much. I cannot imagine what it must be like to have teaching during the day and creating, lessons that are engaging and also connecting, while also helping your young children at the same time, and maybe also having a spouse that's in the house doing their own work. So I think just the balance of all of that, I can't even imagine. I think that's a huge struggle for many teachers. And then I think layering in the emotional piece of what we're all feeling, which is this sense of unknown and really sad and challenging times. And then having to put that off to the side a little bit and be present for your students. So just that, which is, we did that before COVID-19, many of us. But I think that this adds another layer of that, of balancing the emotional energy too, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
So I love, oh, I'm sorry, Jocelyn, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay, so I love when theories and philosophies and ideas are really, when the gun's put to their head. Like, here you go. I'm a mindful I teach mindfulness. I teach people to stay in the moment and not get caught up in the monkey mind, racing here, thinking past, thinking future. And now I put you in a rugged, hostile environment. And now I ask you to teach against the tough opponents. Now take on, so how should I, or our viewers, how should they bring mindfulness into this experience so that they can not only stay calmer, but really maybe, and I don't want to lead you, benefit from this experience?
I think for everybody, obviously, it's going to be the approach might be different. But for me, I'll speak to my experience. Now, this is what we're 4 weeks in. I had a rough first couple of weeks of really trying to. I would say I leaned into control a lot. I found myself in reflection now that uncertainty just pushed me into this. I'm going to control everything. I'm going to make a schedule of what we're eating every day. And I'm going to make sure everybody's off their computer in my house. And I'm going to make the best lessons. And honestly, that lasted a couple of days and I was just spiraling. I felt myself spiraling. And I think that's something with, the practice of mindfulness, you notice more when you're not on track. And so the last couple of weeks, I've really been embodying the idea of space and grace, giving myself the space that I need when I need it, which is unusual for me because I feel like pre-COVID-19, I didn't need it as much, or I wasn't aware of that I needed it as much. I'm really feeling and craving space more so than ever. And then giving myself grace when I'm not always my best self.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge invitation in this this moment of kind of all of us are going within, is allowing ourselves a little bit of grace for not always showing up the way we wish we would show up every day, or the way we think we can show up every day, but just allowing what does show up to show up without judgment, right?
Love it.
So space and grace have been my keys to kind of every day, just, what kind of space do I need today? And some days I need more. Monday was a terribly rainy day here. I needed a lot of space on Monday. I just mentally couldn't wrap my brain around where I wanted to be. And then giving myself the grace to offer that to myself.
Right. Yeah.
It's great to check in with yourself and also understand that, you need to care about your needs as well as those of your students to show up best for them.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to stay connected in the way that Jim was saying is something that you really worked to bring into your teaching, with it being quarantine and Zoom, and how are you staying connected?
I will say that is also a journey. And I think that, going back to one of your original questions, I think a big challenge of this is, how can we utilize technology to the best of our ability, making sure that connection is paramount. And as a 53-year-old woman who's not always technologically savvy, I've had a big learning curve the last few weeks. And I'm not giving up, and I'm trying a whole lot of different things. But I think that's another thing that we have to give some space and grace to educators with, is this was kind of, we were thrown into it. And there is a learning curve with technology, and there is, just like anything, and there is a learning curve with use it in the most effective way. But for me, I would say the last few weeks, I've just, I went from using, like a Zoom or a Google Meet in large classes, and continually reflecting. So that mindful practice is huge, right? So I didn't love a big class on Google Meet. To me, it felt like I was the one leading that the entire time. And I don't ever want my classes to be about me. I want it to be about them. It's hard to do that when you have 26 14-year-olds who may be in their bedroom or not feeling super comfortable. To Zoom and this technology space is very intimate in a way.
Yeah.
And so I've just kind of revamped it this week. I'm doing a lot more small group meetings. So this week I'm meeting in just smaller groups that I I'm trying to curate a little bit more carefully, so I feel like the students can come out. And then just designing more activities that have absolutely nothing to do with what I'm teaching. So, today we did a huge slideshow. They sent me baby pictures, and we put up baby pictures and took guesses on whose picture was that was in the room. And just kind of loosening things up in that way is kind of how I'm moving forward. And then this week, I'm also leaning into, this has been a lot of small groups all day long. I'm talking all day long, much more than I'm used to. And so I've decided next week, I'm going to tweak it, in reflection to honor me a little bit, because it was a lot of energy. And so I think just the idea of continually focusing on reflection and connection as your intention, and then reflecting on how that went as a weekly practice. Can't go wrong with that, right?
Right. ERIN, I find it tremendously interesting that, first of all, you were driven to abruptly change your road because of kids' social anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
You saw it in the classroom, you felt it. And you couldn't just go on with day in, day out. I love that Lily Tomlin quote. I used to look around and say, somebody ought to do something about this. And then I realized that I was somebody, and that's who you became. And now we have this really bizarre, atypical, unique situation where many of the kids who were suffering from tremendous social anxiety are the calmest they've ever been. And we no longer have to dress up, compare ourselves to others. All the judgment game has suddenly vanished. And kerplunk, I think it's intriguing how well it's working for a load of kids. Would you agree?
I 100% would agree. In my own personal, family life, I've witnessed happier kids, and I was trying to figure out if it was because there is no fear of missing out because no one is doing anything. So they're not witnessing what they're missing. We're all doing the same. And there's no social game happening, right? So for many of our kids, that is a huge struggle and a huge battle on a day in and day out basis. So that 100% I agree with you. There is some gift in that the social piece has allowed, kids to feel a little bit less anxious in that area. For sure.
Now, do you think that this experience, once kids can return to school, will somehow still help those kids in that area?
I think if we draw them to that reflection and ask them to reflect on that kind of as a question, I think is really important. And I think, my hope is that teachers are using this time to ask big questions like that really have nothing to do with content and everything to do with how they're feeling and what their day in and day out experience is, and how they can use that to move themselves forward or learn more. I've been saying a lot that this is an invitation for us to reacquaint ourselves with ourselves. And I hope, kids don't naturally do that. We have to kind of draw them to that with some big reflective questions. So it's another good time to do things like that too.
Yeah. So, I don't want to downplay at all. Many people are in the lowest rung of Maslow's needs and simply in survival mode. And there's pain and suffering. What the healthcare workers are doing, like offering their lives for others. I mean, if you're there, you're in survival mode. Many of us are not directly in that mode where we're living, we're staying safe, we're trying to protect our own selves, our family. And it brings me to, if you're not in survival mode, like what, ERIN, when this is over, when this module of 2 months, 6 months, or a year ends, what do you want to bring with, what do you want to bring with you that you look back and go, that was a sacred time, and I then learned, deleted, became, because I had this human experiment for a year?
I mean, I think for me personally, it would be just a deeper understanding of who I am. I was saying on our podcast this week that, I feel like the year was busy, and we all can probably have days and months and years like that. And although I think my body was keeping score because, you know, I always felt like I was having stomach issues. Now that it took me about 2 weeks to really slow down, I now recognize that this is what I needed. Like I need to invite more of that into my day in and day out. But as a teacher, I mean, I really am eager to get back to the classroom to use this whole collective experience to generate some lessons on oneness. Because if this doesn't show that we are all the same, I don't know what does. And so that is like a huge gift to use this experience as, you know, a way to kind of embrace this idea that as humans, we are all the same.
Yeah.
You know, because this is happening to everybody, to everyone, every gender, every socioeconomic status. And of course, now we are seeing that, you know, some are being hit more than others, but just this idea that we're all experiencing this collective, you know, uncertainty together is a huge invitation, I think, if we use it wisely when we come back with kids.
Yeah.
You think that's one of the ways that those kids could be helped, the ones who are feeling more like outsiders or anxiety coming up?
Yeah, and I think just, you know, it's hard to do this depending on when we go back. I mean, that's the big question, right? Will we continue to feel what we're feeling when we go back, or will there be a new normal that we've embraced that then we'll have to reassimilate into another new normal? Do you know what I'm saying? It all depends on how long, you know, we are in this, you know, quarantine situation. But I hope that teachers are using, and I believe they are, this time to really ask kids to be reflective in their emotional states and how they're feeling right now, because at some point they will forget. You know, we'll forget how we were feeling, and it's important to kind of honor that piece, I think.
Yeah.
So I have just one last one. Oh, Jocelyn, did I cut you off again?
No.
Did you have a follow-up? Okay.
No,
You know, I trying to throw passes, fake a pass, you know, but
You're welcome.
yeah, I'm good at this. But you know, you're so good at this on your podcast. And by the way, if anybody's watching this, just cue into the Mindful Educator. I mean, it is as good as it gets. I mean, it really is. You two flow like I was going to say like Desi and Lucy, or it's just beautiful flow. But you always leave people with tools, tactics, strategies. You always have great takeaways. Like you watch this, here's your goodie bag. So from a mindful educator, from someone who's studied at the deepest levels of mindfulness, what are I always say 3, Jocelyn says, stop saying 3. How about 2 good giveaways that you would give to our listeners on how they can navigate their way through this challenge?
I mean, I think that if you have never embarked on a stillness practice, this would be the ideal time to do it. You know, so often when we try to teach mindfulness and mindful awareness to people, we go through the avenue of meditation, and some people embrace it and other people stiff arm it because it's not for them, it's too hard, you know, I don't have time, it's a lot of reasons. But I feel more so than ever that this was a gift of us to all receive some time to maybe just begin to embrace a couple of minutes of stillness practice. And whatever that looks like. It doesn't have to be sitting on a cushion listening to Deepak if it doesn't resonate with you. It could be walking in nature in your backyard, sitting on your deck, listening to the birds, you know, just offering yourself a few minutes of stillness, I think would be the number one thing I would suggest to people. And then the second, I would say is, I just think this opportunity, I keep thinking a lot to myself that this is just a huge way, or a huge opportunity to relook at how we are connecting with people. And the word judgment just keeps coming up, right? It's just, can we just let go of the judgment? Can we just continue to let go of the judgment? Because everyone is having a hard time. And some days everybody's not having a hard time. But I just feel like this, if there's one thing I could encourage people to do, would be just to watch the thoughts and the words and really let go of judgment. because I think everybody is trying to do the best they can with the tools that they have. And some of us, have more some days and not so much on other days. So that would be my two things.
Wow.
Just give yourself space. Watch the
That's a nice goodie
give
bag.
yourself space.
Yeah.
Joss, last question.
Yeah, well, I just want to say I love what you just said. And also with judgment, it's sneaky how we might be thinking, we're promoting social distancing and not realizing that in doing so, we're judging others. And, so I love what you're saying about stillness and a time to really reflect and see what our intentions really are, and when we're sort of being hypocritical and don't even realize it. Yeah, I wanted to say, there are so many professions that have been somewhat underappreciated, and teaching is one of them. I think that people are even more so than usual seeing the importance of teachers. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I also think this is divine timing. My wish has always been that we recognize teachers for the challenge that teaching has always been. But I mean, as somebody who's been in it for 31 years, I would say the last 10 things have drastically changed in the sense that our students are struggling with so many more emotional issues that we didn't have before. And so we're being asked to do a huge lion's share of the task in many, not just, we're not just teaching curriculum. And I, for a long time have been saying that districts really need to get on board to support the emotional states of their teachers, because it is impossible to take all that we're being asked to do and also support the emotional states of our students. It's impossible. So this, the week 1, week 2, and everybody was saying amazing things about teachers. My heart was just like bursting, because I was like, this is it. This is what this is what teachers need to hear, which is that I see you. This is what everybody needs to hear, right? I see you, I value you, and I know that you're doing the best that you can. And I just hope that continues, as we move on. And I think that I have high hopes that it will, but I really believe that there's going to be a shift in how we're looking at educators, and what their day in and day out is like on a daily basis.
Yeah. So I heard yesterday it's okay to be scared.
Mm-hmm.
And I can still see Mr. Rogers sitting there going, that's fine. We all get scared. But then I heard yesterday, it's maybe not okay to be afraid. So scared means I move forward with my fear. I actually have the courage to become a hero of my own life and take on challenges that lure me, but I'm scared to do. I've seen you move forward as a hero towards really scary areas. I've seen you stand up for what you believe in really challenging, rugged environments. And then I've seen you personally become a person who makes other people feel, no matter who they are, better about themselves when they're in your presence. So I love you, and I'm allowed to say that at age 68, because that's the beauty of the coronavirus. You never know. I love what you stand for and how so many kids whose lives you touched. So we're just flattered to have you here.
Thank you so much.
I'll let the CEO and boss finish up. Joss, want to just finish?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for joining us and for doing all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. It was a true pleasure, and I think that the work that you guys are doing and the value that you will offer people, you will not know, but just keep doing it, because it's all in service.